Hello everyone, this is AndresRestart, and welcome to the Nintendo Switch 2 Leak Extravaganza. We have several stories to discuss today. We have new shipment data that is further suggesting that the Switch 2 is right around the corner. There is this Chinese video that is circulating that appears to be actual footage of the Switch 2 Joy-Cons. Is it actually? We'll talk more about that in a moment. But going beyond that, we also have some images that seem to have gone out there that are showing off a Switch 2 screen protector. So we're starting to see some actual Switch 2 accessories, and this one is showing off the size of the screen and some other minor details about the shaping that could give us just a little bit more information about how the Switch 2 works in comparison to the Switch 1. And then beyond that, we now have multiple reports on the Switch 2 release date, pricing, and when we might see the actual presentation. So there's a lot to get into today. But before going forward, let me take this moment to ask that if you do enjoy my content, to please subscribe and hit that notification bell, and if you're unsure, watch through this video and then consider subscribing and hitting that bell. So let's start off with this shipment data. Here we have this article from Universal Nintendo. They got permission from Family Board user Lick to share this information because there they were talking about it with the private label, but here's what's being said. User Lick, known mainly on the Family Boards forum, continues to gather information about these shipments, and in new research already published on the forum and authorized by him for our sharing here at Universal Nintendo, reported that Nvidia would have shipped more than 836,000 units of the SoC system on a chip T239 to a single Nintendo contract assembler in Vietnam, according to data collected until September 2024. So the T239 is the chip that Nvidia has produced for the Nintendo Switch 2. We actually saw evidence of this in a big Nvidia data leak a long time ago by this point, and we've known for some time that this is what's going to be the chip for the Switch 2, and here we are seeing that over 836,000 units have been shipped in the month of September to a single assembler in Vietnam. This is a massive increase in shipment parts compared to any other prior month where we've seen only things up to 300,000. So this suggests that there's clearly a ramp up here, and again, this is just for one assembler. So there could be more out there. This strongly suggests that they are ramping up production. Perhaps assembly is about to start, if not already. We've kind of talked about this a few different times over the last few months, but it seems like we're inching closer and closer, and the notion of a launch in the first half of 2025 for Switch 2 is becoming more believable, although there might be a little bit of wiggle room there, and we'll be speaking more on that in a moment. Next, what I would like to bring up here is this image leak for the Nintendo Switch 2 Joy-Cons, apparently. It's coming from a user on Bilibili, a Chinese forum, and here you can see these controllers, and it is a little blurry. There's definitely not the most clear, crisp image here, but we can see some fat-looking Joy-Cons with an extra button here, and there's some actual footage, so let's get to that. Let's see if this extra footage here does anything to help us understand what's going on. I'll go ahead and play it. Okay, it's all blurred. We see a Paper Mario PNG playing down here. It's still very blurred. And there's putting circles around these Joy-Cons for some reason. I think we can see the divots around the Joy-Cons here. We've seen like prototype render images, CAD images, so this could just be like a really good 3D print of that. But here we see a clear view of the side button that we assume would be what you would press to eject the Joy-Cons. Also a clear view of the S buttons that would be inside the Joy-Cons. That would be the shoulder buttons when they're detached. Although looking at the holes here for this Joy-Con, I don't see anything inside of it, so I'm thinking this is still a 3D print. So I don't necessarily believe that this is actually real, but it might be real. This is at least a good look at how the Switch 2 Joy-Cons may appear when we do finally get our hands on them. Now you'll notice that it's just all black on white. Again, I'm not sure this is actually real, but a lot of people are talking about it, so we are mentioning it here. There's nothing that totally confirms that it's fake, but This is just a random user on a Chinese forum. I'd like to point out that a few months ago, back in, I want to say September, right? Early September, there was this other Chinese user on YouTube that put out this video that a lot of people fell in love with. And they had this 3D print of the Switch 2, and they were talking about it in a method that sort of led us to believe, or they were trying to lead people to believe at least, that they knew some things and they were holding back from revealing the information because they didn't want to get in trouble until more info got out there. But they also talked about the Switch 2 reveal being in October, early October, and that did not happen. So I always kind of doubted that one, but a lot of people talked about it. And here we have something somewhat similar. I would say this one is even less credible, just because all the images are very blurred. So I'm not taking this one too seriously, but it is interesting, and I do like the size of all the buttons and the overall shape of this new style of Joy-Con, which we presume is for the Switch 2. But now it looks like we have some images that have shown up on Alibaba that appear to be images for the Switch 2 screen protector, a Switch 2 screen protector. And what you see here is a comparison to the normal Switch screen, the regular Switch screen, versus what would be the Switch 2 screen. So we see a significant difference in size there, but not only that, you'll notice that the gaps here suggest bigger speakers than what we have for Switch 1. That makes sense. Bigger speakers would be nice. If you look at Switch OLED, it already has better volume and overall better audio quality compared to regular Switch. But something else that's interesting here is that this is the divot for Switch 1, there's nothing like that for Switch 2. So why is there no longer a space for the light sensor? My guess what's going on is this is simply a feature that Nintendo is cutting out that doesn't really seem to be all that necessary. We also see here a Switch 2 carrying case, and here are the dimensions of it. You see that there, it looks like a big case for a Switch 2. It is going to be a bigger system, so that makes sense. There's not really much else to take away from this. Well, let's now get into the reports regarding what's going on with the release timing. Here on Nintendo Duo, they are reporting, according to various sources accessed by Nintendo Duo, Nintendo plans to launch Nintendo Switch 2 in the summer of 2025. Members of at least 6 development studios that are working on titles for the Switch's successor have confirmed to us that the console's launch window is between June and early July. That is a small window of time. I guess we're talking about like a 6-week window here that we now have for when we can sort of start to think about when the Switch 2 is coming out. But we have another little interesting update here. So, we actually have some posts from Samus Hunter that is speaking on this situation. Here they say in response to people reporting about this article from Nintendo Duo, "This lines up with what I heard. For the price, I heard it would have been on the lower side of this range, not $500, but most likely $399 to $449 USD, depending on region or tax included in late spring release like June." Continuing here, they put some bullets. Late spring release, May-June release, depending on production number for launch. Aiming for $399, $449, depending on taxes. Presentation already confirmed for this fiscal year. Speculation between late January, February. No info on that now. They still have to announce some Switch 1 games. Some things to take away here. Samus Hunter, who we've discussed recently this year, has arguably been the most consistent, accurate Nintendo leaker. They teased Donkey Kong news shortly before the Nintendo Direct about the Donkey Kong expansion. They teased Xenoblade Chronicles X shortly before it was announced. They teased Emio the Smiling Man, Famicom Detective Club. And I'm going to bring this up every time because a lot of people don't want to believe Samus Hunter from years in the past where they didn't get everything right, but this year they've been really spot on. They haven't gotten anything wrong and just things right, but now there are some new things that are kind of pending, like this, which we won't know for sure if it's accurate or not until the end of winter. But something else that we've talked about from Samus Hunter is that they've been bringing up that there's going to be this big presentation, and they did not specify as a Nintendo Direct, but they did bring up that Metroid Prime 4 would be a big emphasis in this presentation, which fuels my speculation in Metroid Prime 4 being a big cross-gen title. But here's where things get a little bit more interesting when you think about it from this perspective. we also saw an official announcement regarding a Metroid Prime 1 through 3 art book coming out next summer, which has fueled speculation that Metroid Prime 4 might be coming out a bit after that point, sometime in the summer. So now if we're hearing about Switch 2 launching in the summer, where does this position Metroid Prime 4? As a launch title, coming out in the first few months? I'm gonna side with it coming out within the first few months, because I feel like something like 3D Mario would make more sense as a day one title. But Metroid Prime 4 I think would be coming out soon afterwards. It'll be one of the big titles available early on for Switch 2, but of course, yes, also Switch 1. And then also, we should still be expecting some Switch 1 game announcements, which probably shouldn't come as any surprise to anyone, although some people might be thinking that Nintendo might be done with Switch 1, but they've still been announcing things, so I expect there to still be more things coming even after Switch 2 is out. Now, a few more little tidbits here. Safe on Twitter asked Samus Hunter Wind Waker and Twilight Princess, and Samus here says, "That's are not the games I heard." It looks like there's a language barrier here, but basically, yeah, doesn't look like they heard anything about these games, but that doesn't mean they're going to hear about everything. And then here's Akata says, "It's seeming more likely that this is going to be the case. I'm doubting that they'll be able to pull off a release before May 2025. And Samus Hunter responds by saying, "Yeah, a May release is not off the table, but it might be difficult logistically, but they can easily release another Switch 1 game during that month to fill the gap." So Samus Hunter is putting May on the table for when we might see Switch 2, so if you want to expand this launch window for Switch 2, May at the earliest, and mid-July at the latest. That's what we're getting here between Samus Hunter and these new reports from Nintendo Duo, where they've heard from 6 different developers that this would be the launch window. The idea of Switch 2 costing $450 does seem a little high, I'll say, but the OLED costs $350 right now. So a $100 increase for a next generation console, not a big deal, but I also think that Switch 1 should definitely be seeing a price drop pretty soon. And I guess what's interesting about this latest bit of information is that if we do get a reveal in January or February, as we've been thinking as of late, since they haven't done anything yet, this would probably be a good time to announce a price drop for Switch 1, with still about a month or two left in the fiscal year to pick up some more Switch 1 sales with those lower pricings, and then you have a few months where Switch 1 can have some sales with this lower price tag. People will come to accept that as a new pricing standard for Switch 1, and so once Switch 2 comes out, it'll be at a price tag that'll have a healthy difference between the different generations. So basically, I don't expect Switch OLED to stick with $350 USD. I expect that next year there will be a price drop early in the year that will at least put it down $50, if not more so. And with that in mind, I'm going to argue that $400 might still be the sweet spot, but of course, we'll see how things pan out there. But my general takeaway from all of these different little things that we've discussed today, the shipment data, how there's been a significant ramp up in September, how we're now apparently seeing Switch 2 screen protectors. Maybe there's footage out there for Switch 2 Joy-Cons, that one's debatable, but we have seen these different prototype leaks of Switch 2 already regardless. But then also we have this Nintendo Duo report where they're saying from 6 different developer sources the launch window, and then Samus Hunter, arguably the most reliable Nintendo leaker this year, is giving us a launch window, a presentation window, and a pricing range. It seems like we are in the final stretch. It certainly has been a tough year waiting on Switch 2 news. We've been anticipating Switch 2 news all throughout this year, officially from Nintendo. We've gotten it a few times, but just the little crumbs, not the big, awesome presentation or even teaser we've been anticipating. But we're getting close. We are a few days into December now. January is just a few weeks away. We have the Game Awards, maybe there's some Metroid news there, that could be pretty exciting. And before we know it, we'll be in January, where a reveal for Switch 2 will essentially be about to happen. Nintendo themselves has already confirmed that it will be happening before the end of the fiscal year. And let me also point this out. One thing that I've continually argued throughout this year since May 7th, once Nintendo told us that they would be giving us some sort of announcement about Switch 2 before the end of the fiscal year, March 31st, 2025, is that if they're to follow something somewhat similar to Switch 1, in terms of reveal to release window, that was 4.5 months. And if they wait till the very last day of the fiscal year, March 31st, 2025, assuming they have a similar reveal to release window as Switch 1, that will place the release in the thick of summer. And if we were to see a reveal in February or January instead, and they still maintain a similar reveal to release window, then that actually would line us up with what we're hearing right now about when Switch 2 is coming out. May, June, or early July. And I'm going to throw it out there that I do think it's possible that the interval between reveal and release for Switch 2 may be even shorter than Switch 1, because Nintendo's been trending in this direction over the generation. Shorter reveal to release windows. Switch 2 likely is going to be very similar to Switch 1, so there may not even be that much to tell us about the console itself, but more so the games. And so maybe they don't need 4.5 months, maybe they just need 4 months or 3.5 months. So I think we're getting close. But also, because some people are probably going to ask, what about that rumor about a reveal in January with a release in March? We were always doubtful of that. Even last week we put out another video where we got some more info from Samus Hunter, but it seemed to conflict with the idea of a March release. But May, June, July, well, we now have more information backing that than anything else. So I'm siding with that for now. But what do you all think? Let me know in the comments below. This is AndresRestart. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and I'll see you all really soon. Take care. Bye.